Let's get some AniNews solo leveling cut content. This is called How Sung Jin-woo Broke Japan's #1 S-rank hunter Goto. That sounds a little sus. What do you mean broke him?
The anime gave a lot more credit to Goto than it should have.
Okay.
Where here they portrayed him as close to Sung's equal. In the manhwa and novels, Sung straight up traumatized him.
And I think that again, that was like the animation's like intentional direction to hype up Goto rather than immediately fodderizing him as soon as you introduced him an episode ago, right? If you want to, you know, make the people hyped up for Sung Jin-woo, sorry, if you want people get hyped up for Goto as well, right? I think that it's better to not do him so dirty, but again, it just has to do with, do you want to hype this character up or not? And A1 Pictures decided they did.
So, as awesome as it was to watch Sung throw hands with Japan's #1 hunter, that was a very important detail left out from it. It was a terrifying experience that went to affect Goto greatly. This influences his actions later on, as well as places a wedge in his overall plans with Matsumoto. It's only part of the cut content we're gonna talk about though, since quite a bit more was left out to bring us the raid as fast as possible.
Okay.
So, just as we do every week, here's all those extra details and scenes to make your solo leveling experience a more complete one. I'm just gonna shout out the new solo leveling shirts
merch, baby!
time, though, since by the end of next week, they're gonna be gone for good. That's right.
Get
now
your
and
merch!
Next video are the last chances you'll have to buy one of the 3 designs the team and I cooked up
It's
together.
now or never!
As shirts that are sourced locally, then made in-house. I promise this is some of the highest quality streetwear you can get your hands on. So, whether it's Iron Shield, Igris' sword, or Sung's daggers, you can sport this subtle nod to solo leveling pretty much anywhere. Just click the link down in the description to check them out. But anyway, episode 22, We Need a Hero, covering chapters 91 to 96 from the manhwa and chapters 112 to 115 from the web novel. Let's start things off here in the gymnasium, where Goto would be incredibly bored watching Korea's best spar. In the manhwa, he was a lot more polite, but in the novel, he genuinely found them pitiful. The word laughable came to mind despite him not trying to be too mean about it.
Damn, so
It was
cocky.
a thought that confirmed his belief that Korea's protection would be in far better hands with the Japanese. Cha was the only hunter he deemed somewhat worthwhile, but even then, her abilities paled in comparison to Japan's best.
Okay.
So, Goto just found it unlucky the one who awakened with the most potential also turned out to—
That's kind of crazy that like there's a gap between Cha and Goto. But there's also a gap between Goto and Sung Jin-woo, which goes to show that Jin-woo is on a different level entirely from everyone else in Korea, to the point where the S-ranks might as well just be fodder at this point. And then after the Ant Raid, he's gonna get so much more stronger too. So like, we're just playing with the big boys. Probably gonna be considered like a national level hunter at this rate.
To be an old man who couldn't fight anymore. Chairman Go was the only S-rank Goto could consider as their equal.
Damn, the
It was once
glaze,
that
old man.
assessment was made that Goto found no reason to stick around anymore. He had visually confirmed their plan could proceed without issue now. At least that was until he saw Sung. He actually didn't notice him until he was already in the room, so that's why Goto assumed Sung was an assassin type. In fact, despite Sung's aura being very much visible, Goto couldn't sense anything at all from him. So, to hear he was actually a mage-type hunter, well, that came as quite the shock for him. It was so unbelievable that he needed to take out his phone and verify it on the Hunter Association's website. In the novel, this
Bro
would be
pulled up the
moment
wiki.
when Goto challenges Sung, but in the manhwa there were first a few interactions with the Japan hunters. Kei could barely talk due to the repugnant smell, but he did find Cha to be pretty interesting.
Bro is flirting. Look how blushed she is. He's like, oh my god, she must smell like me too. Not smell like me, but she must have enhanced sense of smell. The little gas mask here looks like a little cute face. Look at the smiley face here, squiggly face.
Since she only blocked her nose using a handkerchief though, that made him think she was significantly weaker than him.
Oh wow.
Hanaka was
Smell leveling. Are you serious? We're doing smell aura level scaling right now? Like the power scaling between smell, like, oh, she's handkerchief level, but I'm gas mask level, therefore I'm stronger. This is crazy.
Only blocked her nose using a handkerchief though, that made him think she was significantly weaker than him.
Wild.
Hanakawa's assessment was pretty much the same as Goto's, so when she was talking trash in Japanese, Jong-soo, who understood her, immediately stepped in to correct her.
The strongest A-rank hunter. This guy is the GOAT.
This would lead to a back and forth of mostly pettiness, since Hanekawa would question Jongsu's presence as a measly A rank, while Jongsu would swing back calling her just the interpreter. Turns out she's actually an A rank hunter herself.
Yo, let's throw
and
some
Jongsu's
hands.
comment would be enough to get her to want to fight. Despite Goto's best efforts to keep things courteous, Hanekawa would insist Jongsu take her on in a 1v1. This was how the grab the wrist.
Look at him, bro. How much aura does this mob-like character have? Like, look at his face and haircut and just his overall design. You wouldn't expect anything from him, but he exudes so much charisma. And I underestimated him in the anime. I thought that he was gonna get done dirty. I was like, who is this fodder? Turns out, I was the fodder. This guy's cracked.
Game came to be, since Jongsu would be the one to come up with the rules for it. It was a good way to measure each other's abilities beyond just brute force. He had found a way to include tactics as well.
He looks so he looks
Jongsu
so
was taken by the
cool.
stance Hanekawa didn't find appropriate, but when asked why it was he chose it, Jongsu would simply say his hands were only coming out to grab her wrist.
Oh.
Initially, that gave the impression Jongsu was confident in his
So
speed, but
menacing.
what it really was confidence in fighting other people. So the match would proceed without Jongsu taking a single hit, minus a hit to his pride when this happened.
He did it to himself, right? He raised his pants leg up to like do a kick, and then his crotch part ripped. His pants literally ripped mid-fight against the girl. That's crazy. What if this is part of the tactic though? What if he's such a goat that like he intentionally ripped his pants to create an opening where the the interpreter would be like, "Lol, what just happened?" And then she get distracted, and he'd be like, and then he would like take her out.
Hanekawa would then take this as an opportunity to strike, but committing so fully had left her open as well. It was the exact moment Jongsu was waiting for.
Look at
With
him!
Hanekawa focused only on offense and forgetting about defense, Jongsu was able to grab her wrist without her even realizing what had happened.
The art of the bait. Bro flashed his crotch, ripped his pants to create an opening, and then capitalized on it. This guy's too cool.
It was a feat he was able to pull off solely from his experience fighting other people.
Does he do this often? Does he always do this? Is this just like a signature move? How many pants does he have?
So, where in Japan Hanekawa likely only fought monsters, in Korea fighting other hunters wasn't as uncommon as she might think. That being the case, Jongsu had a lot more experience predicting the movements of people. It was a stark contrast from the easily readable moves of monsters. A massive gap in experience that resulted in Jongsu's victory.
Damn.
It was after that
This
Goto
guy.
would suggest the 4v4, masking it as a means to
Yo, I want to see Jongsu versus Goto Ryuji. That's a matchup I need to see.
build trust, but what it really was to see in person just how strong everyone was. The rules were expanded to exclude assassin and mage type hunters, then in addition to the wrist,
How convenient that they exclude the two of the strongest people in our, squad.
a person could win by touching their opponent's back or knocking them down. So, Kenzo was calm knowing Beck and Ma were probably weaker than him, but he did suspect that Beck was hiding something.
Beast
Lim
mode.
was hoping Japan would go easy on him, but with him being a ranger capable of attacking multiple people at once, that changed the 1v1 dynamic into a bona fide group match. So, if Japan wanted to keep the matchups limited to one person only, it was pretty essential to take him out first. Now, it was during the fight that Chairman Go would be in awe of how they were able to destroy the gym, but seeing their power reminded him of how much of a shame it was to be sending such young hunters to the battlefield.
Bro wants to go in the front line.
Atsushi lived by the rule of survival of the fittest, up to the point when he had to prove that he was the fittest. What I mean is that, despite going at Beck with the intent to kill, he would hesitate at the very last second just like how he always did.
He needs
It was
the
a common
bloodlust.
occurrence that indicated the hunter lifestyle wasn't really for him. This made Beck reconsider his previous thought that every hunter wanted to fight, and it led him to call Atsushi a coward. To him, it was a shame that one of the strongest S-ranks present was someone incapable of fighting. The fights would then continue just as we saw, except for a bit more context on what happened here. When enraged like this, Atsushi turns into a completely different person.
Yeah, he just needs a little bit of bloodlust, right? And then he goes into his own berserk mode and no longer he hesitates.
He loses all sense of rational thinking, and by the end can't even remember what happened during it. It was a crazy shift in mentality that, when active, enabled him to clear a B rank gate all by himself.
Oh, a B
considered
rank!
a kind of berserk mode that put everyone around him at risk. Why then was he part of a strike squad? Well, my guess would be for that wildcard factor.
He's like a new person, right? Recruited here, and Goto was like testing him here, seeing like, how do you really operate?
He was a coward in his normal state and unpredictable when enraged. So, it was this enhanced power that allowed him to gain the upper hand on Shaw, leaving Sung no choice but to intervene.
Oh, that panel.
The anime wasn't entirely clear about that, but in the manhwa she was on the floor about to get pummeled. This brings us back to the 1v1, which in the novel was mostly necessary, but was also partly for pride too. You see, while Goto's mission did require him to learn everything he could about Sung, he also wanted to lift the mask Sung was hiding behind.
Okay.
He refused to accept that this new S-rank hunter was a mage, so in order to eliminate any unexpected variations and prove he was right, Goto decided to get more data on Sung.
I mean, he's not wrong, right? Jimmu is a necromancer, but like, by all means, he's pretty much like an assassin, rogue, thief-like person until he got those like necromancer powers. It's crazy though that he's categorized as a mage.
He suggested a friendly spar masqueraded as training, but Sung instantly knew exactly what it was. It didn't take a genius to realize this, since had Goto just wanted to show off, then he would have just done so against Choi or Beck. It's because he asked him that Sung knew he was the target. Sung's smile after was the outcome Goto least expected.
I love how everybody acknowledges Jimmu as like the alpha of the room. From the beginning, even when he was E rank on paper, even like Kim Char was like, yo, why did I just like immediately assume that this guy was the leader of the pack? Even like the Ant King saying, are you the king? And Goto was like, I'm the king. And he's like, no, I'm not the king by the end. We all know like who the actual main guy is, the aura that he exudes.
Since it's not every day someone seems so eager to face him. Normally they'd be hesitant or flustered, but here Sung's expression could be perceived multiple different ways.
Cocky?
Was he perhaps
Confident?
confident, or was it a nervous reaction due to how troublesome the situation was?
Maybe both?
Either way, seeing Hanekawa get more nervous the more the conversation proceeded led Goto to think something interesting was happening.
Hanekawa being
What
pressured?
should have just been a simple yes or no, instead became a lengthy talk Hanekawa clearly lost control over. The result being an additional condition that flipped the tables on Goto.
Okay.
So, where Sung was the one who should have been caught off guard, now it was only Goto who was flustered. It was news that left him
Minus
genuinely
aura.
pissed.
Minus
Like,
aura.
before he was just gonna take things easy then withdraw, but now he knew he'd have to try. Luckily, Shimizu was available on standby, so as an S-rank healer herself, any damage done would be healed immediately. So Goto
Rip
had
Shimizu.
told her to get ready to heal Sung. To him, he was the only one who'd
Oh, what the hell? Goto is saying, yo, call the ambulance, but literally not for me?
be needing it.
Oh,
Now,
wow,
the
this
reason
guy.
Cha wanted to step in was
Yo, where Byungyu at? Call Byungyu right now so I can say, yo, go heal Goto instead.
because she fully believed Sung was in over his head. As someone who saved her guildmates from certain death, she didn't think it right to let him get hurt from a spar she initially didn't think he had a chance of winning.
Damn, she has no faith in our man, huh? The fuck? I mean, it is like, you know, Japan's strongest, I guess. He has a lot of things going on for him, but damn, everyone just did not expect Jimmu to win.
When she remembered the stare Sung gave her back in the dungeon, though, a great sense of anticipation rose within her.
Wait.
She wanted to see Sung fight just as much as Beck did.
Okay.
Such a fight was one anyone lower than the S rank would have to stand far away from, because when it came to a battle such as this, those weaker could easily die simply from being too close.
What? Not these S ranks or A ranks, right? Like B, C, D, E ranks. Like if they're, I guess the aura would be way too much and they would just pass out like some conqueror shit.
It was when the fight actually started that Goto's opener was intended to end the fight instantly. Since Sung damaged his pride with his condition, this was the fastest way to regain it. Unfortunately, his plan failed just as quick, but at the very least, Sung's evasion of the attack made it clear he wasn't a mage-type hunter.
Light work.
Goto still didn't know what it was the Korean Hunter Association was trying to hide, but his job of determining Sung's abilities was now one step closer to completion. The next steps were to peel back all the layers Sung was hiding behind that, an objective that would have him continue a relentless pursuit until all Sung was capable of was revealed to him. Now, While Goto was very clearly stronger than all the other S ranks present, the emotion Sung felt while fighting him was belief in himself.
He's like, this is coming in pretty slow. If this guy's the strongest man in the room and I can like basically dodge with ease, then I'm good. Seems to be like the expression on his face, smiling.
Since he could finally recognize exactly how strong he'd become, seeing this new power gave him incredible confidence. It was Goto's inability to hit Sung that led him to start going all out, so...
Man, there's a lot of these Goto faces where he truly is just done with himself. Panicking. Look at that. He's just like, what the fuck? I thought I'm the king. I wasn't the king then.
Naturally, everyone was surprised Sung was able to keep up with him. What they all perceived as Sung hanging in there, though, was something else entirely that only Cha realized. You see, where everyone else saw Sung being led around by Goto's endless stream of attacks, Cha could clearly tell it was the opposite.
Like, Sung Jin-woo is not being pressed. It may look like Goto's the one, basically pushing forward with the attacks, but it's not like the attacks are landing. So yeah, one person is doing the aggression, but the other side is also not losing.
The way Sung moved indicated he was in full control. So, just like a puppet master pulling all the strings, Sung was managing the battle's flow in a way that left Goto no choice but to keep attacking. If Cha's assumptions were correct, then Sung was matching Goto's pace in order to get a read on him. It was a feat only possible if his own level was several times greater than Goto's. The only logical conclusion given what was being displayed right now. This then reinforced the notion the fight needed to be ended since Sung wasn't the one who was in danger anymore.
Goto was.
All the risk lay solely with Goto now.
Damn.
For Beck, who was watching with his eyes of the beast.
Bro is looking. Bro is staring. Holy shit. Look leveling. How he is locked in on the fight. The art here for his beast eye is crazy.
His assumption that Sung could grow stronger was finally confirmed here. In comparison to the power he witnessed back at the association building, once again Sung's was now incomparably great.
That's right, he's keep getting stronger.
Beck's entire body trembled as he knew with certainty growing stronger was a possibility. Now, Goto was well aware Sung suckered him into a battle of his own pace, so to be called the strongest yet now be so outmatched here, well, that felt like his pride was getting destroyed piece by piece.
And then he's gonna continuously feel worse about it. He's realizing that, oh man, I really wasn't the king. Everyone else is watching, and he's gonna get more desperate, more desperate.
Eventually, he couldn't take it anymore, so what started out as training now became a full-on duel with the intent to kill.
It's like a friendly spar match turned into like something so personal. Now haymaker punches are coming out.
Sung picked up on this almost instantly, and shortly after came a warning from the system.
Oh, what
Should
the hell?
Goto continue the way he was, then Sung had no doubt an emergency quest would be issued.
Oh, damn. System saying kill Goto or Ryuji. If you don't, then what? What's the punishment? You die? Yeah, oh my god, that'd be crazy.
And it was then that he'd be left with no choice but to kill Goto. So, in order to prevent such a precarious situation from unfolding,
Best scene
Sung
here.
knew he'd finally have to get involved.
Such a good panel.
It's the reason he decided to catch Goto's hand here. It wasn't because Goto had any sort of advantage, it was simply because Sung didn't want to be forced to kill him.
Like, brother, I'm gonna need to kill you at this rate, so you need to stop is this frame.
Goto, on the other hand, had every intention of taking Sung's eye out here, and that was an attack that went beyond just training anymore.
Getting too personal.
Unless Sung had stopped the battle right where it was, the system definitely would have intervened instead. The thing is, now the atmosphere was incredibly different. Everyone could sense this ominous chill, but the one who felt it most was Goto. In fact, his body instinctively responded in a way it never had before, while his head was stuck still trying to understand it.
It felt fear.
As a feeling he'd gone his entire life without experiencing, these chilling goosebumps left him perplexed, then suddenly anxious.
Goto Ryuji felt fear for the first time.
It was as his brain continued to process the fact his attack was stopped that Goto would try to pull away. He would yank his arm with all his might, but Sung's absurd strength ensured he could go nowhere. That's when Goto would see Sung's ice-cold glare, along with the tightly clenched fist cocked back, taking aim right at his unguarded face. And just as Morgan Freeman once said before,
it was at this moment that he knew.
He fucked up.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
That's right. After coming to see this as the grave mistake that it was, A single word was all that popped into his head.
Run.
Death was the only thing he could think about now.
Man, pretty cool though. The webtoon really portrays this fight in a different way that's so one-sided for Jinmu. And I totally get it, right? If the anime went this direction, would have been way more hype for Jinmu. But again, it's all about like what the studio, the team working on this anime wanted to do. Did they want to just throw away Goto Ryuji immediately after introducing him? Did they want to kind of hold off, you know, and kind of keep a suspense to make it seem ambiguous in the power scaling? Giving a little favor to Sung Jinmu with that catch with the hand. And then the next episode, to have Goto Ryuji break down and then refer to this scene in the webtoon of him trembling in fear when recognizing the similar aura from the Ant King with Jinwoo.
He couldn't understand why that was, but seeing the attack waiting for him made him feel that that might have been the outcome had he unleashed it. So it's for that reason Beck and Cha saw the need to jump in. They definitely could have been injured had Sung continued with what he was planning, but considering the risk presented to Goto, it was definitely worse to have the leader of the Japanese team succumb to injury or death. The fallout for it would have been cataclysmic, especially since the raid was only days away now. So, unlike how it was in the anime, there was never any risk to Sung at all. Not only that, but Goto would come out this fight fearing for his life. Having experienced a near-death call that was completely unknown to him, this would send him down a spiral from which he would never recover from.
He just mind broken.
It's for that reason I think such a detail is important, because an outcome like that changes pretty much everything for Goto. In fact, when Goto went to compose himself after the fight, not only was a cold sweat persisting all over his body, but his hands were also bruised black and blue from how tight Sung grabbed him.
Damn, you can see the grip marks here. And this is what happens when someone that's never lost experiences loss for the first time. They don't know how to deal with it. Somebody that's always been carried by their powers, somebody that's always won, doesn't know how to recover and rebound. Jinmu has always lost. So I'm sure there's that level of determination and rigor that exists for him to keep moving forward. Guys like him, they shatter like fragile glass.
It's then he would call Matsumoto to inform him changes needed to be made, but with Sung not being on the raid list at all, Matsumoto assured him there was nothing to worry about. It was absurd news that was shocking to say the least. Now, for all the other S-ranks who witnessed this fight, only Beck and Cha knew how outmatched Goto was. Every guildmaster would still try to recruit Sung after, but Beck alone would stand to the side knowing it wasn't possible.
Bro's just giving up. My man Mr. Ma right now literally trying to recruit. Nah, there's no chance, buddy. If Beck and Che can't get it, what do you think Mr. Ma gonna do shit? Nah, I'm sorry, bro. He ain't joining any guild.
It was clear Sung was the most valuable hunter in existence, so to think he'd join a guild was just absurd.
Not happening.
Luckily, he did have a plan B, and that was to maintain a relationship with him in a different way.
Smart.
So, Guildmaster Ma would comment how Sung was the perfect complement to his guild, since with so many mages making up the ranks from his, having a fighter was sure to balance that.
We don't even need Mr. Ma, bro. We got tank. We got iron. We got big beefy boys.
Mages making up the ranks from his, having a fighter was sure to balance that. That's when Choi would mention he was a mage type.
Yeah.
That would shock Ma just as much as it shocked Goto.
Like, bro wanted a mage. Sorry, bro had too many mages, so he wants Jinmu, but he realizes, bro, this mage already does everything your guild can do and more.
In any case, with the meetup done and the raid only a day away, every news outlet was covering it non-stop. This was only in Korea though, as
Farming
not
news.
much was being said about it from the Japanese side. Not a single station was covering the united front Japan had made with Korea there. It was when the occasional article did make its appearance.
I wonder why. Because of their evil plan, and they don't want to really announce it just yet, and it's better to just kind of keep this shit on the hush-hush down low.
Online that the comments would usually be filled with hate towards Korea. It was two drastically different reactions to what was ultimately the same event. To focus specifically on the news in Korea, aside from the Ants' evolution being presented as the primary reason for the raid even happening, TV panelists would commend Min for coming out of retirement, while the online discourse would question Sung's absence.
Okay.
Those questions
they hating
also
on him.
came with a fair number of hate comments, since without any reason to justify his absence, they could only assume he was the same cowardly E-rank he always was.
I love it. a bunch of fucking no names, a bunch of not even E ranks, bro, just fucking tweeting. They just hating. It's like, oh, this pussy ass. If I was him, I go for sure.
When it came to how Sung really felt, though, comments like these meant nothing at all. Reason being that the only people he was concerned with were,
You know, I would compare these commenters to ants, but then there's ants in solo leveling who have so much aura, so it'd be like a disrespect to ants.
back at home. In the novel, that mentality was pretty much the same, but though these past few days were some of
Oh, that push-up, bro. That push-up is still so fucking bad.
his happiest, he really didn't want to miss out on the Jeju raid. His heart raced every time he thought about all the XP he could get. It was when he set
That's right. All the new XP, all the new power, and potentially new ant soldiers. It's just too good to give up.
that aside and calmly analyzed what was really at stake that it became abundantly clear he couldn't leave his mom like that. I mean, she wasn't even aware he was a hunter yet.
Oh.
So, whenever he thought of telling her, then explaining how he was participating in the most dangerous raid the country has ever faced, well, that just brought back memories of all those sleepless nights his mom had back when their dad went missing. So, it's for that reason Sung couldn't do it.
Makes sense, right? Again, his whole character arc is over. I didn't realize he really wanted to go. He's still so addicted to power. I thought that he was just straight up retired and he was like, you know what? I'm done. My leveling is over. I've saved mom. I'm just gonna chill. But nah, he just wanted to go the entire time.
He couldn't have his mom relive those painful memories all over again. If there was one thing more precious to him than XP, it was the family he fought so hard to protect in the first place. The hate comments were something Jinna was more prone to reading, so if Sung had to be worried about something,
Jinna's ego surfing.
those might affect her. Other than that, Sung had no problem letting Korea and Japan duke things out on their own. So it was then that he would receive a call from Jinho, leading us to a scene I suspect will be in next episode.
Okay.
It also segues into a scene with the serial killer I mentioned a few episodes
Oh yeah, this is the Jinmu Batman arc that got cut out to eat fried chicken with mom at home in the anime.
before, but that's something they probably won't include either. Either way, I'll still wait till next episode just in case. Switching over to the scene with the Ant Queen, in the manhwa there were several orders she constantly ingrained into the super ant. The first was to make the enemies who stand in their way tremble in fear, the second was to become ever stronger, then the third was to consume all there was to consume. This would be the 3 rules this
And then they started to eat everything, even themselves.
super ant would abide by. Now, for Goto, who was prepping himself in the meantime, he was still trembling from his face-off against Sung. In the manhwa, Sung's grip would still be
That grip mark, it's like a love mark, bro. It's like a hickey put on Goto. He's still shaking. Look at those hands trembling.
printed into his hand, reminding him of that all too uncomfortable feeling he experienced. He felt he was
That's
being
pretty
just
funny.
a little oversensitive.
It's really funny to me, not gonna
In the
lie.
novel, Goto goes about dealing with this a different way, since here he would choose a more robust approach. He
Okay.
would be training inside the dojo of the Japanese Hunter Association, facing off against 3 S-rank hunters all at the same time.
Whoa.
It was after easily incapacitating all 3 of them that Goto would confirm nothing was wrong with him. In fact, he had actually held himself back, since by not doing so he
Cope.
would have injured these S-ranks.
Cope.
So, as far as he was concerned, there was absolutely nothing wrong with his physical condition.
It's the mental
the same,
though.
unfortunately, couldn't be said for his mental condition.
Performance
For
issues.
a reason completely unknown to him, Goto found himself haunted by this feeling of uneasiness. He definitely had a hunch of where it was coming from, but all he could do now was try to ignore it. Since once the raid was over, Sung's presence
Bro, he needs a therapist. Jim was straight up just sent my man into a mind break session. He needs a therapist. We need to pay for it. I feel bad for him.
wouldn't matter. Goto assumed this feeling would be something he'd never have to deal with again.
Until the face off against the Ant King in the most recent episode, where he says, oh my god, it's the same feeling against Jinmu.
This brings us now to the day of the raid, where a lot more context would be given about the cameraman. Long story short, his
The cameraman is still alive. He can't die. You know the craziest thing though, bro, holy shit, I can't believe I just thought about this. Imagine the cameraman's head got cut off, but like the people were like, the show must go on. The content must continue. Somebody pick up his fucking beheaded head and record it. Do you see what I'm talking about? Like somebody grab the fucking head and just fucking keep it like this to keep the stream going. Oh man, no. That'd be too much.
Boss had spent half the annual budget to secure exclusive rights to record this, pinning the entire station's future solely on him.
News broadcast leveling. The future of this resides in one man. There's a lot going on for this guy. What the hell is this lore?
Why was the price so high? Well, an S-rank gate wasn't something someone could record anytime they wanted. They were already incredibly rare to begin with, then considering how electronics didn't work inside
Yeah,
the
you
gate,
can't record
that
shit.
meant to get footage, one would have to wait for the even more rare occurrence of an S-rank dungeon break.
This is it.
Given that this was
This is a
exactly
perfect
that,
opportunity.
this raid could very well be the only time the world could ever get to witness an event like this.
Okay.
That made the exorbitant price seem like it was nothing.
It'd be funny to imagine that there's a conspiracy theorist in solo leveling world that denies the existence of gates and shit like this. Because again, no one has ever seen like these monsters, right? Well, it's not no one, but many people have. It's like people claiming that the moon landing is fake, but saying, I don't know, man. It just seems awful sus. Now, we ain't allowed to bring electronics into the gates, man. What are they trying to hide from us?
Since when considering the money to be made by selling the footage to other networks, the station's manager knew they'd come out rich. The only risk was whether or not the cameraman would return alive, something that was highly dependent on the raid's success.
Bro's gonna live.
Of course, no regular cameraman would willingly throw themselves
This is the strongest cameraman.
into that, which is why the station's director was ready to beg him to.
Ooh.
Such an act wasn't necessary though, since the cameraman assured him there was nothing to worry about.
Damn, Giga Chad. Fear not, for I am here. You want this content? You want the stream, bro? Nah, I got this shit.
He knew this was easily the biggest job of his life, and that wasn't something he was gonna pass up on. As one of the awakened who chose to live a normal life, he decided long ago to use his powers as a hunter to further his profession as a cameraman. He definitely didn't like raids or the fights that came along with it, but if being a hunter allowed him to get footage others couldn't, that was an opportunity he couldn't let waste. He essentially decided to use his secondary profession to further his primary one.
Unsung hero. This guy is the MVP of the Jeju Ant Raid. It's not Jinwoo. It's not Cha. It's not Team Japan. No. It's the cameraman. This guy, solo cameramanning.
Now, normally the chairman wouldn't have let any TV station film this, but considering what was at stake, Mr. Go deemed it necessary. After 3 disappointing failures, the public needed to know they could still trust the Hunter Association. He couldn't let the sentiment of powerlessness continue to linger across the country. So, with this raid having the highest chance of succeeding, Chairman Go allowed this broadcast solely with the intent to change that sentiment.
And then what happened? Every S-rank hunter just got bodied by the Ant King. What do you think the people are thinking right? There's a 10-minute delay. I don't know if they're showing it. Maybe they should cut this shit off, or some people not keep this shit on. Who knows? But hey, doesn't matter. Jinwoo's gonna pull up. Bro said exchange. Now he's gonna save everything, and cameraman's gonna show that shit, and boom, it's gonna be all okay.
In any case, anxiety couldn't even begin to describe what these S-rank hunters were feeling. Min's presence did provide quite a bit of relief though, since having an S-rank healer meant they could go as hard as they wanted to now.
This fucking
so
guy.
Long as he was present, he could easily heal them to perfect shape at the end of every fight.
That's the funniest line from Mr. Ma against the Ant King after he got injured and came back, and it was like, haha, I'm back, surprise, because we have a healer. And as long as we have this healer, we can't die. Hee hee. It's like, what are you saying, bro?
Mistakes were no longer as costly now. But yeah, that's pretty much everything from before the raid.
Alright.
I'll get into the actual raid next video, along with those extra details with Jinho I mentioned earlier.
Hype.
So be sure to subscribe if you want to see that, and if you
Thank you, Mr. AniNews, for the cut content. My favorite part of the cut content, not gonna lie, this dude right here. Wow. Jongsu is sick. This guy is so hype. He's the perfect mix of like goofy silliness with serious aura. All packaged into one seemingly NPC looking character. Love this guy. The other stuff, obviously Goto Ryuji having a mind break. And being, Jinwoo leaving a hickey on him. And then just basically mind breaking him. And then the final part, the cameraman lore. The cameraman lore. There is so much at stake, bro. All reliant on this single man. Please go check out AniNews' channel. Here's a link to the video. Go give it a like if you did, and I'll see you next time.